Welcome to the Bold Podcast. I'm Todd Bertsch, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and mental fitness coach. Whether you're a new listener or one of our loyal listeners, I'm glad you're here. See, I believe we're all work in progress. No matter where you are in your journey, there's always another lesson, another challenge to overcome, and another opportunity to grow. And that's what this podcast is all about. With my guest, we'll have honest conversations about leadership and personal and professional growth. I'm excited for this next episode, so let's get to it. Today I'm joined by my friend Dave Walter, a leadership executive and people-first leader with more than 3 decades of experience developing high-performing teams and helping leaders bring out the best in others. While many leaders focus on managing performance, Dave has built his career on developing people. And his philosophy is pretty simple. When you treat people with dignity, coach them with compassion, and challenge them to grow, performance naturally follows. In this episode, we're going to talk about the power of positive coaching, building cultures where people are valued, and why leadership has far more to do with people than process. So if you're a leader who wants to inspire growth instead of simply managing results, you're going to get a ton of value from this conversation. Dave, welcome to the Bold Podcast, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me in.
It's so good to see you, man. So good to see you. And to kick off a week, Monday.
Yeah, great start to a week.
You know, get rid of those Sunday scaries.
Yeah. I watched a previous podcast and you guys talked about the Sunday scaries, and I had never heard anybody talk about it professionally.
So it's not just me.
Oh, no. No.
I mean, when I first heard it, the guy that was telling me at breakfast, I felt like I should have known that. Like it was a thing. I'm like, I guess I never had them.
It's been years, but there was a point in my career where I did.
Okay.
And it's very real.
Yeah.
But I had never heard it until one of your podcasts, and you guys kind of dug into that. And I thought, oh, yeah, he's definitely experienced it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So we're here Monday, fresh start, fresh slate. Dave, I look at your experience, and I think I mentioned this to you. I've never had anybody on the show so far that's really been fully ops. Like you're the ops guy.
Okay.
30 years, right?
Yeah.
30 years in operations.
That's right.
So I would love to just give a highlight, a little bit of a glimpse of what is it like? What is an operational role like? And I know that may change slightly depending on the company, but in general, what is it like to be in that type of role?
It is 100% people, regardless of the industry you're in. I spent the first portion of my career in a completely unrelated industry to where I'm at now, but also operations. In the practices and the philosophies and the successes and failures came the same way. But it's people, when you learn how to effectively communicate and manage and work with people, the operations of the business that you're in kind of tend to follow, and go well. But it can be draining emotionally and mentally. In my opinion, when you do it right, you're really invested. I'm a servant leader. And I think a lot of people put that on their LinkedIn profile, or they say that when they explain who they are.
Right.
But truly being a servant leader and being there every day to serve your people can really take a lot out of you. So I think having, good avenues and others to help invest back into you is important.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that stood out to me is the 30 years in leadership. And that's a long time to be in operations and in leadership. And, so the one question I asked prior to the podcast is, what's your zone of genius? Yeah. And you said compassionate leadership. So how do you continue to keep that compassionate leadership after all those years?
That's a great question. That can be challenging. But I just truly love people. I mean, it's my job, and I'm fortunate that it can be my job. But I think that it's very easy for me to connect with people. I'm a very empathetic person. I have had periods through my career maybe where that waned a little bit because of burnout or, stresses that come along with the job. And I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by good leaders that would help me reach out, help me find sources to coach me up and refill my cup a little bit, similar to when I connected with you and I reached out to you. And that's kind of how I've kept that fire burning for the amount of time that I have.
Yeah. Keeping that spark lit.
That's right. That's right.
You often say that people perform better when they're treated with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
Why do you think that idea is still overlooked today? I mean, it seems like a simple concept, and it's not new, right?
Right.
And I go back to, I was at SHRM National in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and one of the keynote speakers was the man, Simon Sinek.
Okay. Wow.
And if anybody knows anything about Simon, he's written a lot of wonderful books, one of which, The Infinite Game, which is one of my favorites. His core message is when you focus on the people, everything else takes care of itself.
Agreed.
And that's the long game, and that's what he calls the infinite game. And that was his core message at the HR National Conference.
Yeah.
We need to get back to focusing in on the people. Easier said than done, right, Dave?
It is.
So how do you continue to focus in on the people, and what does that mean to you, and what have you done to focus in?
I had somebody tell me really early on in my career, I would say, long before I got into leadership or management, he was somebody that I felt was a pretty good leader, a pretty good manager. I was real young, late teens probably. And he said to me, you got 2 eyes and 2 ears, only one mouth. Mm-hmm. Use them in that proportion. Mm-hmm. And it sounded great when he told me. I'm like, oh, that's really catchy. But as my career evolved, as I got into leadership, that started to really ring loud. And it's been, a good bit of my success, or a good bit of the way that I've developed kind of the management style that I have, watching and listening mm-hmm. twice as much as I talk. Yep. People are pretty good at telling you what motivates them. People are pretty good at telling you what demotivates them or what hurts them, and not always with words. You got to watch them. You have to be able to read the body language. You have to be able to, understand some of the reactions that they may have. But you also have to listen to the words. Doing that, paying attention to my people, paying close attention to them, watching what they're doing, listening to what they're saying, has really shaped how I lead each person differently. It's really shaped how I've developed as a leader through the years. Initially, when we just started a second ago or a few minutes ago, you had said, what do I think has changed, or why are people getting away from that, treating people with dignity and respect? Where do some leaders fail in that? And I think it's they see temporary success by not doing so. So I've done a leadership training program for new leaders as they become supervisors. And part of what I do is I kind of show a contrast between a dictator and a leader. And, you can even tie it to history. There's not a real good history of dictators being successful for long periods of time. But
right.
I think the reason why a lot of people get away from that philosophy and they stick to their guns with the way they treat people is because maybe they come with that dictator personality, or they come with that dictator solution to a situation, come down real hard on people, probably make a lot of assumptions and a lot of rough demands that are not necessarily compassionate. And it gets reaction because it shocks people.
Right.
And that guy that pounds his fists and smashes his hands down on the conference room table and throws fits and yells and screams, people, it shocks them.
Yeah.
And they jump into action
yeah.
because they don't want that. They don't want to feel like that's making them feel. So then that leader feels like, oh, well, look at how that worked.
Right.
I threw a fit, I melted down, maybe, threw something or whatever the case is, and it got done.
Yeah.
And it got done faster than I wanted it to, and it got done really well. And so they just keep doubling down on that. And I think that it is an effective strategy for the very short term. Mm-hmm. And it wears people down and it burns people out. And eventually those same people that are jumping into action when you treat them with the opposite of dignity and respect,
Right.
Start to build resentment, and eventually they leave you.
Yep. Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. And the reason why I'm sitting over here laughing, which I honestly shouldn't be laughing, but you were talking about me. Unfortunately, as a young leader, as somebody who had a challenge with a temper and no patience for his whole life until I got into positive intelligence, which my audience definitely knows about now. That's how I led. And you're right. Exactly what you said. Throwing the temper, pounding the fist, getting upset, yelling, like a little kid. And it did. It had short-term benefits. And that was it. And you're right. Then I started to see people leave, and we had a revolving door. And I started to lose some really good people.
Yeah.
And I started embracing HR finally and taking ENPS surveys with the team and really listening, as you said, taking a step back, taking all that feedback in and saying, I need to take a good look in the mirror. Yeah. This isn't working. This really isn't who I want to be and the leader I want to be or that I could be, and made some changes. So I couldn't agree more, absolutely. And, I want to go back to something you said, Dave. I've been having a lot of conversations this year in particular. I've noticed a theme, and one of the themes is one of the challenges with leadership is that those initial leaders, middle managers, or first-time leaders don't get the training.
Yeah.
And you just said it. So you have a program in place for those leaders because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
It's not their fault.
Not at all.
Necessarily. So I don't understand why people don't invest in that.
And maybe it's the leaders above them that didn't have the experience, but I agree. I see a lot of really great players, assumed to be great coaches, and they're not, and they suffer and they struggle. Their people suffer. Sometimes they suffer. So, yeah, I agree with you. There's a lack of entry-level leadership training. I think you and I had talked about it another time, in terms of how often we see somebody that's really good, an individual contributor, then promoted.
Right.
And that leadership training's missing. So it's a gap, I want to fill wherever I can. But definitely a gap I see across, most organizations. I mean, I've experienced it myself. I've been part of the gap in the past, and seen people suffer and had to double back to put that training in place. But
yeah. Do you think, let me ask you this question. Do you think leaders are built or born?
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm going to say yes. To both.
To both, yeah.
Yeah, because through my career, I've had the opportunity to work with and see some folks that were just natural leaders. It was in their personality, and but they were not in a leadership position. And then I've also seen people that were very intelligent and were very motivated and wanted to be great leaders, be developed into great leaders. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would agree. Same way. I think I had maybe some natural tendencies to be a leader, be out in the front per se, but definitely didn't have the training and the knowledge to be a great leader. Really what it takes. So I don't know. That's a great segue into, so you're developing these programs. Obviously, you're in charge of a lot of people. One of your main goals is managing people and coaching and mentoring people. What are the characteristics that you look for when you find, that person? You're like, okay, that person right there, I feel like has the potential to move up into a leadership role. Is there a secret sauce or something that you've noticed that has, and maybe that's not the natural born leader, right? That's somebody that's going to need some upskilling.
Yeah, you got great questions. I look for somebody that is first good at their job. They take full ownership of it. and they excel, and I see them taking steps to want to be the best and want to grow. And then I think of maybe the other half of that would be I watch how they interact with others. How are they interacting with their peers? How are they interacting with people maybe that they report to, or that in some fashion may dotted line report up to them? And just kind of standing back and watching for that natural leadership that we were just talking about. And then I have a conversation with them, and a lot of times it's exactly what you said. They don't see themselves as leaders. A lot of times I find that they have their opinion or their view of what leadership is might be slightly different than what it really is. And we talk through those things, and I try to get a feel for what the person, how they feel about it and what they want out of their career. Talking about when I have these initial conversations, a lot of times with that person that maybe isn't that natural leader that just is the obvious choice, they tend to say, "Oh, I couldn't do that. That's not me." I say, "Well, what couldn't you do?" And a lot of times it's the person's impression of leadership. So they're like, "Well, I can't get up there in front of the room." We do that monthly meeting, and you stand up there and talk in front of everybody, and and give the update. I couldn't do that. I said, well, I don't like doing that either.
Right. Nobody does.
That's not
right
what leadership is. I mean, let's dig a little bit deeper into that, and we start kind of peeling back those layers and talking about what all is involved with that, and how does it feel for you as the leader, and if the person is still adamant that's not what I want, I don't want that in a career, I usually don't push them towards it.
Right.
But a lot of times when we get into that a little bit deeper and they have a better understanding, I'd be willing to give that a try.
Yeah.
And we start working from there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I love that you have that conversation, because I think a lot of the challenges that we see now, one is people just aren't being trained early on, so they don't have that initial foundation. They create bad habits that just perpetuate. But also having the conversation, not everybody's meant to be a leader.
Right.
And just because somebody says leadership, and typically that comes with a good size promotion, salary increase, right? And some people just chase that. And what I've seen happen is people get into that role and they're not happy.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when you're not happy? Your spark dims.
Yeah.
And when your spark dims, curiosity shuts down, ownership fades, stress occurs, and you get disengaged, burned out, and eventually, if someone doesn't intervene, like a manager, you leave.
Yeah.
And that's the cycle. That's the cycle that I've seen. And so I think we really need to be careful about taking the time just to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Just because it's maybe easier to fill that gap as opposed to going through the process of interviewing, whether it be internal or external. You owe it to that person as well, right? To really say it. Here's what it looks like. To your point, right?
This is what's involved. This is the life you're either choosing to jump into or saying, I don't want a part.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny when you were talking about, it tends to come with a promotion. It tends to come with pay increase. That's another one when I talk to people and I say, what do you feel like leadership is, or what does it look like to you? When I'm asking you about whether you want to grow in leadership, your impression of what that would be. They talk about the presenting, they talk about the upfront personality or public speaking, and they talk about pay. And I say, what is your motivation? Do you want to move into this role simply to make more money? Mm-hmm. Do you want to move into this role because you are fueled by helping people grow? You're fueled by watching the light come on with somebody? Because if you're chasing the dollars, that's okay. There's ways to do that. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't recommend this because of exactly what you said. They get into this. They realize they're unhappy. They're not bringing everything they can to the table every day as a leader, and the people below them suffer. The people beside them suffer. So we have those conversations where I say, what exactly do you want when someone's coming and saying, I want to be promoted. Right. I'd like to put my hat in the ring for this role. And I'll have that. Why? Right. Why do you want it? Right. And some, I try to create an environment where people are open and honest, and I think for the most part they are. And sometimes they'll say, I just need to make more money. And I say, all right, well, let's talk about other ways that you can do that, because you're really good in the role you're in. And they say, and I love the role I'm in. Well, let's not force you out of that role then. Let's find ways to accomplish the goals that you have with you staying in that role.
Oh man, I love it, Dave. I absolutely love it. And I've been having that type of conversation here on the show. I think it's the episode that's going to release next week. And we talk a little bit about having a path for everybody.
Yeah.
And that path may not be leadership, right? But would you rather give someone a path so they can continue to grow both through skill and experience, but also financially, which is, what a lot of people want, or just lose them, but not to the point where leadership is the only way. Right. And that was kind of the point in that conversation, is that people want to grow, whether they believe it or not. We all were meant to evolve. We're meant to grow. So we need to give people the opportunity to, and maybe it's just a little stretch assignment.
Yeah.
It's just something where they can get out of their comfort zone a little bit. But I love that. I just love the intentionality that you have as a leader, having that conversation, asking, and then finding out. And this is what I say, Dave, or at least this is how I managed, was I called it the work love language. Going back to Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages. And some people are like, oh, that's a little weird, but I bring it into work. Like, not everybody is built the same. Not everybody wants the same things.
Yeah.
I have a small business. You're coming from a very large global company, but still being able to have the conversations and know your people and what's important to them. What's important to Johnny is not the same as Susie, and so on, right? It might be salary, it might be a big office, it might be title, or it might just be they need more of a challenge.
Yep.
They need stretch. But you don't ask, you don't spend the time, you don't know.
Right.
And then that's when people leave.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're not happy. And that spark dims.
Yep.
And I know I talk about the spark a lot, but I'm a big believer in that's it, man. If that spark's lit, and I said in the video, on social a few days ago, you give a damn.
Yeah, that's right.
You really do. And you'll go to war for people.
Yep.
You'll do anything for your managers and for that company.
100%.
But that manager needs to take the time. And I love going back, Dave, to something you said about listening. Really being an active listener. And something that you talk about a lot is coaching. And that's where we're headed. And I don't know if you've seen this book before, The Coaching Habit.
I have not.
All right. So I'm going to gift this to you.
Awesome.
Today.
Thank you.
This is an incredible book. In my opinion, one of the best leadership books that I've read. I gave it to all my leaders. They love it. And it's simple. The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier. He says, say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever. Say less and ask more. Be curious. Be a coach. Not a leader, but be a coach.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to spend some time now, because
Sure.
I love you. I look at your bio and the way that you lead, and you talk about mentoring. You talk about coaching. These things are really, really important to you. And I would imagine a huge part of your success. And then you also specifically say positive coaching.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give the floor to you. What do you think about that as a leader, as a coach? How do you do that? Why is that important to you? And then let's talk a little bit about what positive coaching means to you.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot in that one.
There's a lot. It's going to be a big one.
There's a lot in there. Yeah. When I really dig into it, it started when I was a kid. Probably a lot like you. I was hot-blooded redhead.
I was thinking
all the stereotypical redhead, temper, all that. My parents were entrepreneurs, and so as a kid, and you're growing up and you're learning how to work on the first car, whatever the case is. I had a dad that was really good at all this stuff, and I would lose my mind when I'm working on something because it wasn't going well, and he was just cool as can be. And I would need his help, So I would go in a fit to get him, and he would come in and he would listen to me, and I'm banging stuff around, and he would just leave. I lived on a farm. He would go out and get back to work, and it might take me an hour and a half to get him from the task that he was doing to come back in. And this happened multiple times before I said, why are you doing this? You can see I'm in the middle of like a crisis here.
Right.
What's the deal? And he basically said, I'm not going to deal with you when you're acting like that. When you calm down and I can talk to you and you're going to listen to me, then I'm willing to invest my time. But I got a lot of stuff to do. I don't have time to stand here while you're acting like a fool and throwing a temper tantrum and not listening. So
Man,
that's it. And I just remember, even when I acted that way, he was kind. He was calm and cool when he would deal with me. And it didn't really set in until I was older, and I realized like I was kind of being trained this way as a kid. And then as I started my professional career, it was very easy for me to connect with people, kind of saying before, maybe an empath or a very empathetic personality. And I was always very sensitive to how people reacted to things. And it was very easy for me to put myself in someone else's shoes as to how that made me feel, that rough leader, that harsh boss, whatever the case was. So there was the motivation of I don't want to be like them. And then as I started developing kind of my career path, I was fortunate enough to work with some leaders in a great company that really invested in us and really invested in training. And they would go out and find specific leadership training, management training. And I got some great training early on in my career about specifically tailored to positive coaching. And it just really resonated with me. One of the things, and I still say it today often, when you make somebody feel wrong and stupid, they're going to stop listening.
Yeah.
They're going to stop acting. They're going to stop doing what it is you need them to do once you've made them feel wrong and stupid. And that sounds so simple, but that's always my motivation. I don't want to do that. I don't want to create that feeling in somebody. As far as intentionality, you talked about, I very intentionally look for the things that people are doing right. But not the general, hey, great job today. Well, you really, really brought it, I want to talk very specifically about what did you do great today and why was it great? What was the situation? What was the behavior? What was the impact it had on me or the organization or the job or your coworkers? And keep that, or I'll say TSP, true, specific, positive. So it's very, very easy for the person to grasp. This is the thing that I did that went well. This is why it went well. And my mind makes it very easy to replicate. And you start to build trust with people. And everybody, I do, you do, we all enjoy hearing what we're doing well. We all enjoy being told we're doing something good. And your body kind of gets hungry for that. Your mind gets hungry for that. And through this process, the people become much more open to talking about what needs improvement or what other parts of the job they need to step up so that they get to that point where that true, specific, and positive feedback is coming for them as well. I think when you combine that in that philosophy, looking for what they're doing well, talking to them about it in the moment, don't wait to the monthly review or the annual review to talk about these. Hit these things as they're happening. The combination of that and then getting to know your people like you talked about and building trust, understanding who they are as humans, letting them, see what you're all about. Like I'll say sometimes you got to kind of peel your chest open and let them see your heart. And you build that trust. People become much more willing to, one, listen to the things that they're not doing well. With an open mind and not so much defensiveness, and a curiosity to say, I agree with you. I don't know how to do that, though. Can you help me? Or can you connect me with somebody who is good at that or who can help me get to the level where I need to be or, to be the best, whatever their motivation is. So it really creates an environment where, one, they're very clear on what they're doing well and why you feel it was done well so that they can repeat it. And it creates an openness to feedback for things that they need to improve upon, and a genuine desire to actually make the improvements. It's not a fear-based management style or fear-motivated. They want to do well because they're built that way. As you mentioned, I think everybody's got that in them. And they want to have that next session. They want to have that discussion with you where you can talk about the incredible improvement you've made on these 3 things that 2 weeks ago or a year ago were, struggles or areas for improvement for you.
Yeah. Whew. I love it. Absolutely. And that takes, so I think about that, Dave, and I think about my past leadership roles. That takes time.
Yeah.
That to have that type of intentionality takes an incredible amount of time.
Yeah.
How do you make that time for your people?
I'm getting better at it. Early in my career, it came from tons of hours.
Okay. Extra.
Lots of hours. Yeah, lots of extra hours. But, as I mature as a leader, as I grow in my career, and I realize, I'm always dumping that out. I'm always dumping my time out, but nobody's really refilling that for me. And, you and I have talked about it, that spark starts to dim. I've realized, to keep my spark as bright as I need it to be to lead the people, I need to get my time back under control a little bit better. So to answer your question, more structure, scheduled one-to-ones, reoccurring one-to-ones, again, getting to know your people and what fits them. I have a combination of roles that I lead now that are, some are in the office, some are in the field, some are kind of both. And I've just learned over the course of the last year and a half or so, this person who I need to connect with, they're an early bird, but they got a long commute to work. So I get an opportunity to connect with them on the phone. Maybe it's 7 a.m, and we talk while they're on their drive in, or we talk while I'm on my drive in. Because a one-to-one for them in the middle of the day is more stressful and disruptive to their day than making good use of that otherwise wasted commute time. And I could kind of go through scenarios like that with a variety of different people where I just try to find what fits for them and also fits for me. And that could be a working lunch every couple of weeks. That could be the structured one-to-ones. It could be that phone call. Some people want to have a back and forth, via email or like Teams. So I find the platform that works well for the person, works well for me, and then we just stick with it consistently and kind of grow with each other. They get to know me, I get to know them, and build upon that.
Yeah. 2 key words there for me: intentionality, which we've said a couple of times.
Yeah. Incredibly
important, and consistency.
Right.
Consistency in leadership is absolutely imperative. If you're going to have that one-on-one, because I've seen it, and I've seen it where I was that reschedule guy. I'm going to move it 15 minutes or tomorrow or whatever. And I never thought anything of it, right? I just figured I'm the boss, I'm the owner, and I got a lot on my plate. Everyone understands. Oh boy, was I misunderstood. Deep down, people don't like that. That's their time. And they were ready. They potentially prepping. They're having a conversation with their leader, their boss. That was a lesson well learned for me,
I had to learn it that way too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And again, I think, building that environment where people will be very candid with you.
Right.
It can hurt sometimes too. And I had somebody in my past say, because I did the same, reschedule or move, push back, come late, a variety of different no-nos, I guess, when it comes to one-to-ones. And at one point they said to me, clearly my time or what, I have to report back to you isn't that important.
Oh.
And I said, why do you say that?
That hurts, right?
And because it's super important to me. And they said, I hear that, but that's not what I'm seeing.
Oh.
And I said, all right, talk to me. And they did. And they told me exactly what you said.
Yeah.
You move it. If I'm lucky, you cancel it sometimes. Or you show up late. I got 30 minutes with you once a week where it's just one-to-one with you and I. And they talked about what you said. I prep. There's certain things that I know you want to talk about. So I make sure I have my numbers. I make sure I have my data. And I spend time doing that. And then when you come late or you don't show or you reschedule, that tells me that it's not as important to you as it was when we scheduled this. And man, that's feedback that hurts, but couldn't have been better feedback for me. I mean, that was very accurate. I know that was very true to how they were feeling.
Yeah.
So I had some apologizing to do. And at that point, I had to show them. I could apologize and say all the great things that you could think of,
right?
And drop the mic drop motivational speech on them. But
right.
I needed to just, talk less and show them.
Right.
And, I've had to learn a few lessons myself that way through leadership.
Yeah. That's okay, right? That's how we learn.
That's right.
As long as we learn.
That's
right?
the key.
And we have to have kind of an open mindset, not a fixed mindset, an open mindset where we're open to feedback, regardless of the role or whoever it is. It's all valuable feedback.
Yeah.
And with that being so important, Dave, we can't get there. We can't get that feedback if we don't create the psychological safe space.
Right.
And we talk a lot about that on the show, especially recently. And actually in the HR conference I was at, that was a through line in almost every talk.
Yeah.
There was some mention, some heavier than others, more focus on it, but psychological safety. And that really goes back to the theme, which is getting back to your people.
Yeah.
That is people. People want to feel safe.
Yep.
And when they feel safe, man, they will do anything for you. One of which is give you honest, valuable feedback. But
even when it hurts.
Even when it hurts.
Yeah.
And that's what we need as leaders. That's what we need in our cultures. That doesn't happen overnight. That takes time, right, to build that up, but incredibly important. That took me a long time to learn that. It really did, especially when you lead from a fear perspective and, temper and no patience, perfectionists, all these really horrible tendencies. People just want time. At the end of the day, man, it is pretty simple.
Yeah.
But I think our managers, one, don't have the training, two, don't have the time. We're working with slimmer teams. Mm-hmm. We're being asked to do more with less and maybe responsible for more people. And we just don't have the time, right. Or like you said, I'm going to put in 80 hours. Well, then I'm burnt.
That's right.
And my spark is dimmed, right? I need to pour into my cup, like you said, and I love that. You have to take care of yourself. If you aren't lit up, man, you can't light anyone else up, It's pretty simple when it comes down to it. It comes down to time and being consistent and knowing your people. It really does. Get to know them, man. We're talking about human beings. Yeah, we're doing a job. It's work, but we're all just humans.
Yeah. So I'm gonna back up a little bit to something you were saying, the long hours, getting to know your people. Just for clarification on that, I don't mean I'm making them go, let's go out to dinner tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go get drinks or those things that, require them to spend more time with me outside of work. And I think a lot of leaders make that mistake too, where they do the cool events, and that stuff is necessary. I think that stuff's really good for being some glue in the culture. But when that's your go-to, we're going to grind our 40 hours out.
Yeah.
And then where you and I get to know each other is me keeping you from your family and having you come eat dinner with me.
Right.
Or me pulling you away from your kids on Saturday because I had this epiphany that I feel like right now is the best time to share it with you. That, again, I think has maybe initial little glimmers of it's working. And then over time, that turns into a fire that can burn your team down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
The getting to know them part is get to know them while they're working. Get to know them while they're doing the work that you guys do together, or that is being done at your organization, and you're going to see, you're going to have that opportunity to catch all the things they're doing right. You're going to have the opportunity to start to understand what motivates them. You're a lot of the things that we've already talked about this morning. You're going to see those through that. Spend your time with them in the job, in the workplace.
Right.
Don't necessarily try to monopolize or capitalize on their personal time, their private time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned that lesson as well. And I think you and I talked about it before the show, having the cornhole, after work, which, people just want to get home. I was doing that for me. I thought it was fun, and I thought that was the glue, right? Building that kind of that team bond. At the end of the day, people it's not that they don't like you or want to spend more time with you, but they want to get back to their family, and that's okay. Yeah. So find the time and really get to know your people. And, I say in those one-on-ones, like, take the first 5 minutes just to ask, like, how are you? Yeah. How is your family doing? Yes. How's your husband doing? Yep. I know he was looking for a job. How are the kids? Right. I know you just had a graduation. How's your dog? I remember you said you took him to the vet last week. Yeah. These are simple things. I know you're taking care of your mom. You're a caregiver now. How's mom doing?
And it's important. It really tells your people you're listening to them. You're paying attention. You're not just the guy that does that job or the woman who does that task.
Right.
They realize that you really are listening to them, that you really are paying attention, and it makes you more human.
Exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
You said it from the beginning. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen, man.
Yeah.
People love to talk about themselves.
Right.
Everybody, whether you're an intro, extrovert, people love to talk about themselves. And they love to talk about their kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Or their pets.
Or whatever is most important to them.
Yeah.
Just give them an opportunity.
Right.
And just be curious.
Yep.
And that's where I'm a huge advocate of curiosity. Yeah. Ask the questions. Right? And then sit back and listen.
Yeah. Yep.
At the end of the day, it is pretty simple.
It is.
It goes back to what your dad was teaching you. Just treat people like they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And when you're ready, I'll coach you up, man.
That's right.
I'll pour into you.
Yeah.
But you need to show me that you're ready.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us into something I want to talk about next, Dave. You mentioned a lot about growth. Yeah. Growth being very important to you. And something that we talk a lot about on the show, and it's in my keynotes, is choosing growth over comfort. Yeah. When you are in a comfort zone, that spark is dim. And sometimes, for some people, man, they just flatline. They plateau out, and they could stay in that zone for years. I call that Groundhog Day. Old Bill Murray.
Just doing the same.
Same thing, man. Wake up, make breakfast, take the dog out, come home, watch Jeopardy, go to bed, rinse and repeat. Yeah. So let's hang there for a while, because growth is huge for me. And I think as individuals, especially leaders, if we're not growing, we're dying, essentially, right? So what's your take on growth? You said it was a characteristic that you see in people to move into leadership, is they want to be the best they can be. In order to do that, you gotta grow. You gotta get out of your comfort zone a little bit, experience a little bit of discomfort.
And sometimes that's the trick, for myself, or when I'm helping somebody else, just experience a little bit of discomfort and get through it, and you see you survived. Right. It wasn't that bad.
It really wasn't.
And you recognize some of the gains. But that's back to the question. I mean, in terms of growth or sitting stagnant, that's tough for me, because it is painful. I mean, we looked at the gym, right? Mm-hmm. It hurts when you're building muscle and you're training your body, you're tearing it down, and it creates pain. It creates discomfort. So does growth. And I have to really push myself into it, because I think my natural self would say, no, I want to be content. I want to chill. Mm-hmm. And I want to kind of enjoy this maybe put it on cruise control. But I wholeheartedly believe everything that you're saying, everything the leadership books and the leadership training stress is about growth and getting out of your comfort zone. And so I have to force myself to do it. I after nearly 25 years, changed industries to a completely unrelated industry. And wow, it was the most uncomfortable thing I think I've ever done in my adult life. And I had to go in every day looking for that opportunity. What's the one thing I'm going to learn today? What's the one thing that I'm going to get an understanding of, because it could be a foreign language to me. It was so different. And it was unbelievably uncomfortable. And it's still, I've been there over 4 years. It's still uncomfortable. I work with a team of pros, some of the absolute best in the industry. And I'm always, trying to catch up. I'm always trying to learn, what they may have already forgotten. But again, back to growth. I mean, it's something that I think a person has to recognize and accept. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be fun, but it is good for you. And get in there and just do it. Take those steps when they come across a challenge they don't know how to solve. Dig into their network. Ask for people that, ask for help from people that have done it. You had mentioned where I work now is a big global company and has an incredible internal network. And it's reaching out to those other people at the company to say, I've run across this challenge. I don't know how to handle it. Will you coach me? I have the ability to see metrics kind of all over the country, all over the globe for people that are in the same role as I am, where I can look for a person who the metrics are telling me are really good at this thing that I don't understand or this thing that I'm struggling with. And then you have to have that humility to reach out to him and say, hey, it's Dave from CTC 105. I noticed this particular metric in your numbers is outstanding and I'm struggling with it. Would you be willing to meet with me? So I mean, I'm throwing my hand up saying, hey, I'm not good at this. And again, I'm extremely fortunate where I work in an environment. I work with a company where that person I reached out to would say, hey, awesome. I'm glad you reached out to me. Yeah. What works for you? Tomorrow, Tuesday, you got time today? And they've been extremely willing to help. And so it does make that easier as time goes on. But it's a daily struggle for me still that I just have to push through.
Yeah.
I think when you were when you did the keynote speech for us, you talked about ice baths or a cold plunge.
Cold plunge, yeah.
And nobody likes that.
No.
But the people who do it, I mean, it's kind of what you talked about. I mean, it's your brain, your body, fight or flight. Everything is telling you, no, don't do it.
Right.
And you kind of overcome that. It's like that.
Yeah.
Only less cold.
Yeah, and it all comes back to really habits.
Yeah.
And just mental training.
Yeah.
Right? Because our survival brains aren't really meant for change, right? It's to keep us safe.
Yeah.
So we see something new, change, and we run. It's dangerous. I might fail. I might not complete it. I might get humiliated. I might be embarrassed.
Yeah.
All natural. We all go through it. But when we start to embrace change and discomfort on a regular basis, it does naturally become easier.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the goal, and you get hungry for growth.
Right.
It actually starts to become an addiction,
It does.
Positive addiction.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way to be. I think there's a season, right? We all go through seasons in life and in our career. And, there are times when I think it's okay to settle because you just need time to rest.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just really burned out. You just implemented a new ERP or CRM and, that's a 1.5, 2-year project.
Yeah.
Take a break.
Right.
Take a break and just chill for a minute. but don't get too complacent.
Right.
Right. I think that's the trick, is you got to get back up on that horse. And you need leaders. You need leaders who do say, hey, man, I'm going to get vulnerable here. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not an expert. I came into a brand new industry, but you know what? I want to learn as much as I can from you. You're the expert. I want to learn from you.
Right.
And when your people see that, okay, Dave's opening up. He's getting vulnerable. I can get vulnerable. That creates that safe space. Then people feel like they can get out of their comfort zone.
Right.
So that safe space is so important, man, because you're saying, okay, you're going to experience some discomfort. You're likely going to fail because it's new, right? You're not going to be the pro the first time you do it.
Right.
And I'm not going to judge you.
Yep.
It's okay. In fact, I'm going to celebrate you because you are really trying something new. Celebrate the learning, celebrate the experimentation.
Yeah.
Right? We're just scientists. We're just exploring, iterating, trying different things. There's really no end game. It's the infinite game. Going back to Simon, we're just constantly, until our game is done.
Right. We're
just trying to be the best version of ourselves. And naturally, really, nobody gets up in the morning and says, hey, Dave, man, I'm going to suck today. I don't want to do a great job.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a horrible person. But it's just, life gets in the way.
It does.
You know?
I'm very fortunate that I have a leader now that he knew that I was coming from a completely unrelated industry. And I go to him on a regular basis. We have regular one-to-ones, weekly one-to-ones. And I can meet with Brian and say, I do not know how to do this. Can you show me? Can you teach me? And it is always met with absolutely, and it may be right then. He may make arrangements for me to meet with somebody else that's going to teach me that because they may know it even better than he does. But I have that environment where I can go in and say, I've run across this challenge. I haven't seen it yet in this role, and I don't know how to do it.
Right.
Will you help me? And I don't have any fear. And the rest of my team sees that. There's times where somebody will come with something where they say, hey, Dave, this is what we're facing right now. What are we supposed to do? Or how do you want to handle this? And I say, wow, that's a good one. I don't know. That's new for me. Let me talk to Brian. And they know that I'm seeking out that coaching, which kind of, to your point, it opens that door a little bit more for them to do that with me as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a trickle down.
It is.
Yeah.
They get to see it. They hear me preach it.
Right.
And then they get to see it too. So,
right.
Having like-minded leadership is unbelievably valuable.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more. 100%.
You said the part, I don't believe anybody gets up in the morning and says, man, I'm going to suck today.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a terrible job. And it's interesting that you bring that up. Someone else you had on this podcast, Sam, that was something, Sam and I worked together for nearly 25 years, and he used to say that.
Oh, really?
He used to say, people don't get up with the intention of doing a terrible job.
Right.
So that was a little flashback right there.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and it does go back to knowing your people, because sometimes you might just have an off day, right?
Yeah.
It's a long year. You're not going to have a great day every day.
Yeah.
So if you know your people and Susie is just struggling, man. Her mom's not doing well. She's taking care of them, or, maybe they have a lot going on in the family. Got a big graduation party coming up for one of their kids, or maybe one of their daughters is getting married. I mean, it's just knowing those human things. It's a bleed, man.
Yeah.
Work, life, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, yes, they are different, but they do bleed into each other back and forth.
Yeah.
So when you know your people and you know their situations, and I'm not saying you give someone a pass or you don't hold them accountable or you lower the bar. It's just understanding where they're at, meeting them in that moment. Yep. Right. And that's the intentionality.
Yeah. It's okay. We talked about blowing off one-to-ones or moving them, and I'm much better at that now, but it is okay to have a one-to-one with somebody and not cover the metrics. Maybe that person comes in and they sit down and just in the seat, and that's when I stop and say, what's going on? How's things? I know you're taking care of your mother. how's that going? What's new? And maybe that opens a conversation that there's a whole lot of emotion in there. And we put all the metrics aside for a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about life. Let's talk about
Right.
the thing that has you clearly shook.
Right.
Because if you're not healthy at work, if you're not healthy in your personal life, it's going to be hard to be healthy at work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for long-term relationships. I'm not looking for that revolving door we talked about at the beginning of the interview. And sometimes you got to be willing to step away from work and invest a little bit of time, in that personal thing to help keep that person healthy.
Yeah, that reminds me of a conversation I had with the CEO of the Akron Canton Food Bank, Dan Flowers.
Yeah.
Amazing leader. And Dan says, look, I don't want a short-term relationship. So we were talking about hiring, looking for good talent, leadership. And he said, if you're not willing to go the long haul with me, I'm talking 5-10 year relationship, I'm not for you.
Yeah.
I want to build relationships long term.
Yep.
And he really meant it.
He was very passionate about it.
Very passionate.
Yeah.
No, man, we're not doing this short-term thing.
Yeah.
And that's it, because you're investing, and you're investing, and hopefully you can keep somebody, and hopefully you see that in the retention scores.
Yeah.
The last thing we want is a revolving door.
Right.
Recruiting, hiring, interviewing. Man, it's mentally, physically, all the things taxing.
It is. It's exhausting. It takes your focus away from running the business.
Yeah.
We're fortunate. We're growing, and so I am hiring. I am interviewing, and I was just thinking about that at the end of last week. I conducted probably 6 or 7 different interviews last week.
Exhausting.
It is, in the amount of other things that didn't get done because of that. So I'm glad that it's recruiting for growth as opposed to replacing a role or backfilling.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's just as much of a time investment. But all the things we're talking about, they start right there. Mm-hmm. We, in an effort to, save time, in an effort to keep me in a position to have the time to lead the way I want to and need to, I've got a process where I'll do, a short Teams interview, and I'm intentional about that. I want it on video because I want to look at the person.
Yep.
And if that goes well, if we're going to be a match for them and they're going to be a match for us, then we have them come into the office and we sit down and really dig deep. But I start from intro on culture and who we are as an organization, and digging into what are they looking for before we talk about, tell me the skills that you have that make you qualified for this particular role. I want to find out if you even should get a seat at the table. Do you fit our culture? Do you have that desire to grow? Do you want to be the best? Do you operate with integrity? All of the kind of things that are non-negotiables, and that ability to coach and lead and develop them. That starts with us at the very intro and continues through the entire interview. So by the time we've made the choice to onboard somebody, we're pretty confident, that they're like-minded. They want to grow. They want to do well. They're going to fit our culture. They're going to, go along and believe in and fully support our values and beliefs. And it does really make this whole process much, much more simple.
Yeah, it does. How do you discern that though? Right?
It's very subjective,
especially in this day and age.
You can't ask. In a lot of
from
questions,
an HR perspective, do you have a secret? Are there a couple of leading questions you're like, oh, these are the ones I asked this, and I can really tell?
I really just listen to the person.
Yeah.
And keep asking questions. Like you said, people tend to like to talk about themselves. People tend to show up in an interview really willing and ready to sell themselves. So just keeping the questions going, and they'll usually relax to the point where you can tell when they've shifted from that I'm selling myself to maybe a little more authentic, and
right.
they're engaged, and it usually just surfaces.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It is getting challenging. We have to be very cautious what we ask. But back to the kind of the root of all this, I want to know who they are.
Right.
I want to know who they are as a person, first and foremost. Let's understand, what type of a human you are.
Yeah.
And then after, if we say, okay, that's good, we're similar people. Now let's find out if, you would have the skills and you would do well in this role. So we've had a ton of success. We have a great team, incredible retention, and just explosive growth. So it's getting more challenging to find that next Phil or that next level of talent because we have a lot of them.
You've grabbed them up.
Yeah. But that helps too.
That's a good problem to have.
Talent attracts talent.
I was going to say,
people want to come.
When people come to you, then you're not cherry picking. You have the cream.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of trying to figure out which one's best, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to be careful too. You build a great culture. You spend all that time building this psychological safety, this great culture, great leadership team, and then you bring someone new in, right? You just never know. You can go through all the interview questions and have them take all these different assessments, learn all about their behavioral traits. At the end of the day, do they fit in?
Right.
Once they get there.
And if you've introduced the poison apple,
the
whole organization, they take some ownership in the culture. They take ownership in helping to try to maybe get that person to evolve.
Right.
But ultimately, they're looking at me saying, "What are you doing?"
Right.
We've all tried these things. It's not working. What are you doing? Are you going to protect us here? Or are you going to step in and help us out?
Right.
So
that's a moment.
It is.
That's a moment. People pay attention to that.
I've
unfortunately been there, and there's nothing worse.
And that can be handled with compassion too.
But
it has to be handled.
It has to be handled.
Yeah.
Rip that Band-Aid, man.
It has to be.
Everyone says off. The longer you hold on to that, the more damage it's going to do.
Yeah.
Dave, this has been great, man. I've enjoyed this conversation. We're kind of winding down here, but I did want to say, so positive coaching, very important to you. You got some training and some advice early on in your career, and now, kind of full circle, you're investing in positive intelligence.
Yeah.
So what was it about that program and the timing that you wanted to invest in that, in you and your team?
Well, as I mentioned, I have an exceptionally high-performing team. We have good tenure, and these guys and girls work real hard all day, every day, and they're all healthy. They're all, emotionally and physically healthy, and I want to keep them that way. So kind of using some of my history and my past and realizing when I stretched myself too thin and for too long, like you said, it really dims or maybe even extinguishes the spark. I started proactively reaching out to my network and reaching out to other leaders that I trust and respect, asking for training that was designed specifically to help high performers, stay healthy, and stay in that zone for as long as they want to. Essentially, what training is out there that can help us avoid burnout? And through that investigation and kind of that path I went, it led me to you. So I watched some podcasts. A past leader of mine and a good friend of mine, Sam Folletta, was on your show. I watched that. I spoke with Sam. I've talked to others who have worked with you and your team and reached out and connected. And it was one of those situations where I just kind of dumped it all out to you. I remember that, saying, here's what I have.
Right.
And this is what I want. Can you help? And it was perfect alignment. I mean, it is really, truly in alignment with what you do. And so here we are.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. And I get to be part of the first cohort too.
Yeah.
So I get to watch some of my leaders go through this, and I get to watch them grow and get these skills and get these tools. But I'm coming along for the ride, and I get them too. And I need that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I love it, and I can't wait to get started in a few weeks. And I think the key there, Dave, for me, and this is when I said, okay, I like this guy, right? Because I could work with a number of people, right? I only have so much time. I want to work with people that are like me, cut from the same cloth, have the same core values, and the company. And Convergent, in all my experiences, man, they're doing all the right things, and the numbers show it.
Yeah.
But the key here is being proactive. The fact you could have settled and said, we're kicking butt, we're doing great things, we're hitting all our numbers. Let's just continue down that road and grind. You said, no, we're going to be proactive here. Yeah. I want to keep, that's how much I care about my people. I want to keep them here. I want to keep them healthy. Yeah. And sure, there's the business piece. I want to keep them performing.
Sure.
But if they're happy and healthy, they're going to perform.
Absolutely.
Because they're already doing that.
Yep.
So it's just a key piece of advice. I'm not trying to sell positive intelligence, but just being proactive, right? And caring about your people, whether it's positive intelligence, strength finders, DISC, whatever the program is, always looking out for your people. So
if you see signals, smoke signals or problems, it's too late. And digging out of that is, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's pretty darn close to it. So that's being in front of it is so critical.
You said it there, guy. Yeah, we could talk a whole another 15 minutes on smoke signals, but yeah, and that's and that again goes back to knowing your people.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you're paying attention, you're going to see those smoke signals early, and it's not going to be in the year-end performance review. It's going to be in one of those one-to-one conversations. Something's going to come up, and you're saying, "Oh man, what's going on?" And maybe it's something we really need to dig into. Yeah. And that's okay. You created that psychological safety. You can have that honest conversation.
Yep.
And in some cases, it might be time to leave. I can't do anything else for you.
Right.
I can't stretch you any further. Leader, you don't want leadership. Recruiter's on you, offering you 30, 50K.
How do we make it as great of an experience as possible for you?
And sometimes it's okay to depart and go ways.
That's right.
Just like your kids, you got to clip the wings, and that's it, man.
Right.
We'll stay in touch, and good luck.
Yeah.
But at least it was, mutual, and we've done everything that we could do on our end.
Yeah.
Being able to have that conversation, coming to you first, as opposed to just leaving.
Yeah.
This has been great, Dave. I really love this conversation. We're going to hit the lightning bolt round here real quick.
Okay.
One-word answers.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with one word. I'm a talker.
All right. Well, we're gonna try here.
I got you.
So what's currently igniting your spark as a leader right now?
Training.
Oh, that's a good one. I love that. If you could, and I think I know the answer to this one, but if you could describe leadership in one word, what would that be?
Compassion.
Oh, I would have won some money. All right. Do you have a favorite leadership book? Right? You're training these. You have this training program for these new managers, middle managers. They start, hey, I want you to have this book.
There's a series of different leadership books. I mean, you have several of them sitting on the book right there.
How to Be a Great Boss.
Yes,
like
Stephen
Gino
Covey,
Whitman.
Dan Pink. I mean, there's so many great ones. Personally, I'm gonna go. I told you, my faith is big. The KJV Bible. Mm-hmm. People always say, "I wish there was an instruction manual for life." It's in there.
It's in there.
It's in there. You just got to learn how to read it. You got to learn how to dig for it. But I get a massive amount of leadership tips and tricks and how to treat people from that book. So
I'm with you on that.
That's my go-to. And it depends on the stage of growth the person's in.
Sure.
On what book I recommended that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, this is the moment. Last quote of the show, last thought. What do you want to leave our listeners with? If someone's out there and maybe they're a current leader and they're struggling or stuck, or maybe it's somebody that's building up to leadership, what's that one piece of advice that you could give someone?
If you treat people with dignity and respect, they will repay you with performance and loyalty.
That's it. We don't need to say anything further than that. That's it. Thanks, brother. It's been great. Appreciate you.
Yeah, been a pleasure.
Wow, another great episode. Thanks for joining us on the Bolt Podcast. Look, if today's conversation sparked something for you, pass it along. Every share creates a ripple, and that ripple has the power to change somebody's life. If you want more information, more conversations, show notes, resources, or free tools, check out my website, toddbertsch.com. Look, leadership is pretty simple. It comes down to taking care of yourself and your people. Ignite that spark, protect that spark, and light the way for others. We'll see you next time, my friends.